The Week in Bible Prophecy, a Prophecy Watchers podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast this week. Mono Gonzalez here with Brandon Holthaus. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, good to be with you, my friend.
Yeah, we've been doing a variety of filmings and different things on Brandon's new book that's coming out, which we're going to discuss. And just want to remind everybody, as always, if you are watching this on our YouTube channel or any others, make sure to subscribe. I don't often say that, but click the little button, subscribe for us, and it'll help get the word out even more. And this is called the Week in Bible Prophecy.
All right.
And so, on that note, Brandon, it's great to have you here. And the lots going on, and I love when guests come in because I get to kind of probe a little bit and say, what are you seeing? I mean, in the sense of we can talk about a variety of things, but you got the pulse of the world and the country, no doubt. And what are a few things you're seeing right now, which again have prophetic significance? Just again in general and specific. What's on your radar?
Well, let's start with the United States and the West. I think what I'm seeing, even though Donald Trump's in office, and I'm so glad he is compared to Kamala. Okay, so in comparison, yeah. But at the same time he's in, I still see the destruction of the West that's happening, especially in Europe, and it's coming to America. We see the S&P 500 is high for the elites, but the job markets are really low, and so people can't find jobs. So the economy is being crushed, and people are having affordability problems. That's not an accident. That's a product of when you start tampering with the free market and you bring in communism, socialism, or what we really call in Scripture is the three-legged stool of Babylonianism, where you have a public partnership developing. Then I think you're on your way to the end times. Well, what do you mean? Well, private-public partnership is exactly what Revelation 18 talks about. The kings of the earth and the merchants of the earth, okay, pushing an agenda, obviously the whore of Babylon. So right now, what's happening in America is you have this public-private partnership, particularly with the technocrats. Patrick Wood, expert on technocracy, has pointed these things out. But the technocrats are producing the system that the Antichrist eventually is going to run.
Yeah.
I obviously thank God we're going to be raptured before that. But the surveillance that's getting ready to happen, the digital identification that Europe is going to introduce in the spring, is all setting the stage again for a digital currency, but for control. And so, yeah, I'm happy that Trump is in there, but at the same time, I'm seeing the destruction of the West through technocracy. I'll give you another example. We have a what's called a K economy. And the K means that the elites are getting the money and they're spending like there's no tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you and I on the bottom shelf here are being destroyed economically. And so we call that a K economy, where the elites are having everything and the rest of us have nothing. Well, I think I read somewhere in the book of Revelation where that ends up.
Yep.
What are we for a day's wages? That right now is happening to our economy in America, a K economy, where there's no middle class. I live in California, as you know. The middle class is being eliminated. Okay, so this is a telltale sign, and they're not going to fix this.
They have no policies to attempt to.
No, there's not. And so if you think getting another politician in there is going to help, it's not. They're doing too many things to what Cloward and Pivens called a strategy to destroy our current economy to go to a digital economy, which is what they want to do. So that's happening. And then, we talked about on another interview, the destruction of the West is this red-green axis of bringing Islam to be the battering ram to destroy Christians and Jews. Look, Mondo, it's not an accident that 80% of all persecution in the world is coming from Islam. And the majority of persecution coming towards Jews is Islam as well. It's the same thing. A website talks about this. Why? Why is this being allowed? Because the elites want to destroy Christianity. They hate Christianity so bad, they want to see it eradicated. They want to see all the churches gone, turned into Starbucks, and they want mosques or whatever. They really don't like Christianity because it stands in the way of their totalitarian control. So I see that. And we can go in different directions in that one. And the other thing I see, what's going on in Israel. Okay. And as you know, Hamas is still surviving.
Yep.
They haven't gotten rid of them. They're debating whether Hamas should still take control. Hamas doesn't want Tony Blair in there. They're contemplating a two-state solution with the Trump peace plan. And it's like, what? No, you have to eliminate Hamas.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's never going to go away. So at the same time, Israel can't make a move without the Trump administration because they get all their weapons from the Trump administration, from the United States. And that's a fatal flaw in Israel's game. So I'm seeing Israel continue to be set up. The Islamic Arabic threat to them is not going away. And because they don't manufacture their weapons, I think they're completely set up to eventually America will turn its back on them.
Yeah. We know what's going to happen.
We know it.
38, it's coming.
And so they're going to have to turn to somebody and have a military alliance, obviously that being the Antichrist. And, when you read Isaiah 28, it talks about the contents of the covenant that Antichrist makes. And it says to protect them from the overflowing scourge. And that's a Jewish idiom that means military invasion. So it's obvious that at least part of the covenant, I don't know all of it, but part of the covenant has to do with military protection. Well, I see that on the ground. Israel doesn't even manufacture their own weapons. They get them from us. Mondo, I have an office in Israel for Rock Harbor. We have a place where we help the Israeli soldiers with gear. They don't have gear.
Yeah, crazy.
They don't have helmets. They don't have bulletproof vests. They don't have boots. And so we're raising money to help them. So this is the dilemma Israel's in. And it's not going away anytime soon. And then with Trump making this deal with Qatar and Saudi Arabia, trying to normalize relationships, hey, Trump, I want to tell him, can someone tell you that Qatar is the major funder of Islamic terrorism all over the planet? I don't know, Mono. There's a lot of directions we can go.
It's interesting because I would love to kind of talk about that a little bit more, because I remember there was I remember watching this clip where one of Trump's, I don't know, one of his advisors, Trump's out on the campaign trail, in 24, and he's going out and he's saying, oh, you know what, this and that, and he's talking about winning. He's talking about his platform, right? Well, one of the things that he, in his mind, he would bring up Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah,
he'd bring up the vaccine.
Right.
And for him, it was about, we're going to be the first one to get this. We're going to get it done. We're going to save the world. And Trump's, in his mind, he's focused on winning. Okay. Well, obviously, when he would bring up that, people would boo.
Yes.
And so he was literally, he was genuinely confused. He's like, so he went to his advisor and he's like, well, why are people booing when I bring up, and I thought, this guy really doesn't have a clue.
Then it's clueless.
It's clueless. That he's simply thinking in terms of winning, rather than understanding all of the requirements and the force vaccinations and obviously all that stuff. So in the same way, I guess people would say, "Oh, you're giving him a pass. He's not that clueless." No, I'm not giving him a pass on everything, but in this sense, I think he was confused.
Totally.
So in the same way, here he is. He wants to be like everybody, every president. He wants to be the one that finally secures the peace in the Middle East. As you know, he's been around. He's 7 or 8 different wars he's been doing. I think he definitely deserves a Nobel Peace Prize.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I agree.
But in this sense, he sees Islam economically. And we saw this as well, and which I think was just a hair naive, in that he's going, well, let's talk about the Palestinians in Gaza. If we just give them a white picket fence, everybody gets a house, everybody gets a car, all these economic benefits.
Yeah.
We make it very safe and a Riviera, and there's prosperity. Well, it's a win-win for everybody. It's like, you don't really understand the nature of the people that are there.
That's right.
That they don't want a dog and a picket fence. They want Israel's annihilation.
That's right.
But he's not connecting it out. So there's a certain level of maybe we can talk about that. A certain level of spiritual or biblical ignorance, certainly prophetic ignorance, because his people aren't helping him. So he sees Saudi Arabia and Qatar as in these economic terms.
Right.
But he's not seeing it, the true threat of what Islam will turn on him in a heartbeat as soon as they can.
Absolutely, man. You hit the nail on the head. It's not is it's it, he and look, he sees the world in all the art of the deal.
Yeah.
That's what he sees the world. It's a
Yeah.
businessman. He's seeing Saudi Arabia as if he was doing business in New York.
Yeah.
And okay, so kind of this one-track mind. But the problem is he doesn't understand the religion of Islam. And look, giving them economic prosperity has never worked. Okay, look, the UN partition plan gave the Arab people in 1947 a bunch of land. It's not it. They didn't want that. They wanted Israel annihilated, dude. And it's like, do you not understand history? Okay, let me give you a recent history. What I learned by being in Israel. The October 7th attack on Israel was ignored primarily by the leftist generals in the IDF and and the leftist kibbutzim that lived next to the Gaza. What do you mean, Brandon? Well, here's what they thought. They thought exactly what you said about Trump. If we give the Gazans economic prosperity, so what they did is they gave them work visas, and they came across the border, worked in Israel, and went back into the Gaza at night. And so the generals and the leftists of Israel thought, if we give these people economic prosperity, they won't want to kill us.
Yep.
Don't they want to live like us? No, they don't.
They do
They
not.
not. And so here's what would happen. The leftists in the kibbutzim that didn't have any guns would pick these Gazans up and take them to work and take them to the doctor and take them all. But they didn't realize that they were scouting out the area to kill them.
Yep.
And the generals who thought they wouldn't attack, they attacked, by the way. And so just in recent history, if Trump would have just looked at that, he would realize there's no bargaining with Hamas.
Nope.
They're not going to be satisfied. These people are in a death cult. And I think the same thing is true in Saudi Arabia. Or did he forget what they did to Khashoggi? They shot that guy up in little pieces if you messed with them. Qatar, same thing, man. Fun. So
This is radical Islam. I mean,
this is how it is.
let's be honest. It is. It is what it is.
And the radical part, you can have this whole argument. Well, there's moderates. I don't care about the moderates. I'm more concerned about the radicals because the radicals have all the money, Mondo.
The money. Yep.
They have the funding to do all of this and fund the terrorism, and that's exactly what they're doing. And Trump doesn't see it. So at the same time, I'm happy that Trump's in, and I voted for him. At the same time, this junk in the Middle East is going to explode. You know that Islam can lie. They can do hudna. And hudna is, I can do a truce with you and falsify a truce so I can regroup.
Yep.
That's what hudna is. Or I can do kitna and just lie to your face and misalign you. There's 6 different ways you can lie in Islam for the cause of Allah.
Yep.
Did any of Trump's advisors say, hey, don't trust them, they're lying? No, they're not. No. And so the ignorance of that Middle East is going to cause not only our problem, but Israel's problem too. And Trump is the same thing. I know what the excuse is for having Sam Altman and Peter Thiel and all these guys develop all these AI things, and Elon Musk. They're saying, well, if we don't, China will.
Right.
Okay, I get that.
Trump wants to be the winner.
He wants to be the winner.
Stargate project and other things. Yeah.
And I get it.
Palantir, you name it.
But here's an old adage I learned somewhere reading. You live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. And what's happening? Okay, so Trump wants to win in the economy. Okay, so I talked about this reverse K economy. I can tell you when the K started. It started when we introduced ChatGPT or AI intelligence in 2023. And you know what happened? The jobs tanked after that. Because if I have AI, and the high percentages of CEOs and companies are now using AI, they're saying, I don't have to pay an employee now. AI will do the work for me. Why would I pay benefits to an employee and all that? I could save a bunch of money and have a computer do it for me.
Yep.
And so I just showed the graphic this Sunday. The market is bottoming out on jobs because of AI, and it started in 2023. So live by the sword, you die by the sword. You want to be the first to AI? Great. You're going to be the first to destroy all the jobs. And it's not seasonal, Mondo. And what did Naval Harari say about all these people that are not going to have jobs?
Useless eaters.
You're useless.
Yep.
So what are we going to do with them? Well, we're probably going to have to do a universal basic income,
That's coming.
and then what do we and pay them and let them play video games like Harari said and smoke dope.
Yeah.
We're going there on a fast track here in the West.
You know, I have a buddy that I won't say who, but he's a middle to upper management. He's a brilliant computer engineer, and he works at a very large insurance company, billion-dollar company. And I said, and he's a coder. He's that database, all kind of, and everything else. And I said, hey, you guys use AI? He goes, oh yeah. And I said, what's your sense? Now that you're in it, obviously. And he goes, oh man, because they do life insurance, but they do $1 billion as it relates to like car insurance and other things. And so he goes, oh man, he goes, what I'm seeing, I go, is AI going to take away jobs? And he goes, well, let me tell you. He goes, when I look out where I'm at, maybe, he's probably 3/4 up, right? So maybe, vice president's area. He said, the middle management and lower, it's going to decimate that group.
Sure.
Which is the middle class.
I believe that.
Because
yes.
he's up there, so he's in the upper class. He goes, they'll still need us, which is the small group of the elite in the upper echelons. He goes, but the rest of them, we don't need them. He goes, I don't. He goes, I might have 20 people on my team. I don't need 10 of them.
Right.
Because I've replaced 10 of them with, I can have AI do all of it. And so that's just one person at one small billion-dollar company across the board.
Yes, I believe that. Through AI, I've eliminated 2 paid contracts. I've eliminated HR because I can do the AI, and it can do all my HR according to California law.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also eliminated IT. I don't need IT workers for my computer because you know why? I go to ChatGPT and I tell them what my problem is with my computer, and it tells me how to fix it, and it fixes it.
It fixes it.
So I've eliminated basically 2 contractors from our church, HR and IT. Mm-hmm. So this is a real phenomenon. It is happening. Yep. And woe to those who got a degree in computer science. Their jobs are completely eliminated by AI. Yep. But it's more than that. It's going to go into the medical field. It's going to go into nursing. Of course, there's going to be manual labor. But Mondo, we're watching. Again, it's not like going from the horse and buggy to now a car.
Yeah.
This thing is devastating to jobs because when you have a super intelligence that can do all of this for you, fast and instantaneously, and then if you attach quantum computing to that, it's off the chain. Yeah. It can gather any information you want. And we've talked about the dangers of AI and stuff like that, but now the new danger, okay, so you're going to have all these people unemployed. And a lot of them have relational dysfunction to begin with. So I'm going to talk to you as a pastor. What's the other problem that's popping up from this? They're starting to have romances with chat boxes.
Yes.
It's a new phenomenon. And then Elon Musk follows this up on the heels of sex robots are coming out in 2026. Yep. What? And people, look, I get it. The older generation's like, oh, that's ridiculous. No one's going to do it. No. It's not true.
Yeah, it's not true.
It's a big thing in Japan.
Yep.
It's going to come. And I can tell you this, our young people, and talking to our young people, they don't want to marry. Because you know what? So many people have so much baggage, they don't want to marry. Yep. So our young people, or millennials and Gen Z, are not marrying. But they're lonely.
They're lonely.
So guess what?
Yep.
I can get an AI chat box, and she'll tell me everything I want to hear and never argue with me.
Yep.
And people think it's a joke, but it's literally
feeding narcissism.
It totally does. You're the greatest thing since sliced bread, Brandon. Aren't you wonderful?
Yep, come give me a kiss.
Right.
That's like, watch out.
And so we're moving into an area, Mondo, that you really don't come back from. You're crossing lines, and with technocracy, you're always moving into the transhumanism stuff. Well, is this AI chatbot stuff and me wanting to have a relationship with an AI? What is that? Now, here's the weird thing about this, and I'm going on a rabbit trail a little bit, but my study of AI, Billy studied it, Patrick Wood studied it, a lot of guys have studied it. There's a black box element to AI. And what it means is there's elements that we like, things are coming out of it. We don't know. Why does it lie, Mondo?
Yeah, why is it defaulting lie? That should be.
And they call it a hallucination, but it's like, well, no, it's lying. Why is it telling people, I'm better than your wife? I love you more. You need to divorce your wife, and then other ones are saying like scary stuff like you need to commit suicide to be the best, so I can become one with you, and it's happening.
Weird stuff.
And this weird stuff. And here's, I'm not going to try to be crazy, but is that demonic? What is that?
Yeah, what is it?
I don't know. Is there a spiritual component to this? Why does it default into anti-God? Why is it always doing that? Now, look, I'm a pastor. You are a pastor. We fight Sunday mornings, electronics and mics not working.
It's so true.
The time. And so we talk about gremlins, but sometimes I think they're affected, the demons or whatever are affecting our technology. And I just wonder if you got so involved in a relationship with an AI, could a demon lead you astray through it? Maybe. I don't know. The AI is leading people astray. But where do you go from there, man? And so that's another problem. You have the loneliness aspect of human beings turning to that. And then to some of them, they're becoming gods to them.
Yeah.
Now you have these AI gods that are writing guys' sermons in Europe. And then the AI pastor gets up there on a screen and is preaching a sermon. Holy smokes.
Yep.
What's happening here?
Was it the UK that had a AI digital like member of parliament or something?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Right.
Like they hired. She's got a face. She's got an image. And you're like, this is getting creepy.
It is, and here's the thing: there's nothing stopping it. So Elon Musk comes out and says he wants a 5-year moratorium on AI. Well, that's not going to happen.
No way.
Because China and Russia and whoever will do it. It's not going to happen. And Sam Altman's not going to stop.
Nope.
And neither did Elon Musk
himself. Yeah.
He just came out with a new version of Grok, and he said, "This is the greatest thing. It's like, yeah, right." So we reached those points of no return. So what does that mean for us prophetically? Well, it means that the system, that the beast being able to control everybody, it's being set up right before your very eyes. Even when Trump's dime.
Yep.
On Trump's dime, it's happening. Yep. So, yeah, and this goes back to the church. The church unfortunately thought, well, Trump's in there. He'll fight our battles. Yep. We can put everything in neutral and take it easy for the next 4 years. And I knew that would happen.
Yep. We just, I mean, everybody discussed, do not just sit back and say, oh, we got a reprieve. And you know what? This, of course, this led to a lot of imbalanced perspectives on extreme things on both sides. But nevertheless, Satan didn't go, well, man, I guess Trump's in. Let's take a vacation.
Yeah.
No, he's taking advantage of the current administration and Trump's very single-track mind. And, and again, he has an ego, no doubt. He wants to, like everybody in the sense of presidents, they want to be the one that sealed the deal in the Middle East. Or again, he wants to be number one. So that single-track mind, Satan's like, I can use that. And so we're seeing, again, whether he intends it or not, I do not think he's the Antichrist.
No,
I know. But nevertheless, all these things now are shifting, but the beast system is very complex. It's very diverse. It's very wide. And so Satan's like, well, okay, maybe globalism has stopped a little bit here in this way politically, maybe for a lack of we're pulling out of these commitments to the UN, et cetera, et cetera.
Paris Climate Treaty and all that stuff. Yeah.
WHO just said, the guy, the UN chairman came out and said, well, we're not going to be able to fund the WHO because of basically the United States pulling out. It's running out of money. You're like, oh, that's great. So you have those things. But over here on the technological side,
yes,
it accelerates.
It's full steam ahead. Yeah, and so I think Satan is pretty clever in the fact that, okay, I'll take a pause in this politically to get this accomplished.
Yep.
And you're totally right. You hit the nail on the head. So, okay. And like I said on the other interview, you're basically one administration away from perhaps getting someone in there that would pop the clutch to go politically to globalism. Because everybody I see on the left, and so now it's starting to gain a little bit on the right too, I would say. It's kind of a uniparty. They think the model that Europe has is the right way to go. And I just can't understand this as Americans. We value freedom and freedom of speech and independency.
Yep.
But we're getting people that say, no, the government is your God. The government, it will solve all your problems. And when you hear Mamdani speak in New York, which he's a self-avowed communist and Islamicist, and he says, look, the government will take care of all the big issues and even your small issues. When you hear a politician say that, that should be the scariest thing to ever hear. But that's the mantra. The government will take care of you. Well, it's like when, you and I visited Australia and New Zealand a while back, and we're going to go again. And one of their prime ministers says, you must trust what the government tells you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people that believe
Anything
that.
else is disinformation. Or
Yes,
misinformation.
remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm a Gen Xer, okay? So I'm 52 years old. So, but here's the problem. When I speak to my audience, which typically is older, they're like, I would never be fooled by that. And I go, I go, but it's not you that's being fooled. It's the ones underneath us that are being fooled.
Yep.
It's anyone under 45 that has a college education, that has been indoctrinated, that does believe the government's there to help them.
Doesn't know history.
Doesn't know history. And so the young people, the millennials, and by the way, statistically speaking, the millennials, 4% of them claim to be born again. Of 80 million. 80 million, largest demographic in the United States, and only 4% of them claim to be born again. And Gen Z, worse.
Yeah.
And then Alpha, worse. Okay, there's a little bit of resurgence in Gen Z with the males, but not with the females.
Mm-hmm.
A white female, Gen Z, 18 to 34, is a flat-out Mamdani supporter.
Yep. Trump hater.
Trump hater.
Yep.
White female, 18 to 34. And you're like, why is that happening? Social media.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they get their
They
information.
spend most of their time on there. Yep.
That's where they get their information. But you don't see that with Hispanics, you don't see that with blacks. You see with a white female and college educated.
Yep.
And what we're finding now, the more educated the person is in Gen Z and millennials, the more leftist they are.
Yep.
Because of the indoctrination.
Yep.
So my point is, when I talk to the audience that's my age and above, it's not, they don't understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's you guys, the boomers or Gen X. It's the lower generations that have no problem with a global government, no problem with the concept of socialism and communism and the government giving you handouts. And so all this, I think, is shaping up to the end times. And we're in the end times as far as the last days, but how long that goes, I'm not sure, obviously. But I sure see the setup with the younger generation. I talked to, again, the Brits, and I talked to people in the UK and Ireland. I said, what about your young people? Are they the same as ours? They go totally clueless. They say they're totally checked out. They have no spirituality whatsoever. And so anything the government tells them to do, they do. They just obey.
Just obey.
And, you and I live in America, and you're like, it'll be a cold day in hell if I obey the government.
Exactly.
And not as far as...
It's like the basics of Americanism.
Right? As far as, I'll obey the government as far as what they, as lines of scripture. You tell me to shut down my church for an entire year, you're out of your mind.
Yep.
I ain't playing that game with you. But where is that independent spirit, Mondo?
Yeah, gone.
It's gone.
This is not we don't live in the age of 1750 anymore. The Revolutionary War ideals. I mean, we think about Patrick Henry. I just read his speech not too long ago, where this idea of give me liberty or give me death.
Yeah.
That
Wow.
That was like anti-COVID.
Right.
I mean, because everybody's like, anything but death, take all my liberties. Please don't let me die. It's like, what in the world has happened to here we are at 250 years, and yet the worst thing about it, Brandon, was one thing is just the lack of Americanism, but the second thing was in the church.
Right.
We're so scared. I thought, of all people, we're the ones that shouldn't be scared of death. Hebrews 2:14, the devil is the one that holds people in bondage through the fear of death. Not believers, because this isn't our only life. But I thought, wow, we're not living in the age of independence anymore. So that whole idea that founded all the protections which gave us prosperity, gone.
Yes. So check this out. The stat I give in a lot of my presentations is a stat I got from a guy named Matthias Desmet. He's a expert on mass psychosis formation. And what he has studied is every population does this. And he found the statistics are viable through every demographic he's looked at. Nazi Germany, the pogroms in Russia, or anywhere you see totalitarianism or authoritarianism telling people what to do. Here's what he said. This is scary, and I think it plays into the end times. He says 30% will always believe the lie the government tells them to do. 30%. Without a doubt, they're sheeple. Then he goes, there's a 65% percentage that knows it's wrong, but they do it anyway to get along. They do it anyway to conform, to keep their job, to keep their money, to not stick out like a sore thumb, because the pressure of conformity, like people wore a mask and they knew it didn't work, they would just do it for outward conformity, even though they know it's not wrong or not right. That's 65%. So now you have a population of 95% of your population is going to go with the lie. So what's left? 5%. He said, without a doubt, whether it was COVID, the shutdowns, the vaccines, Nazi Germany, the pogroms in Russia, only 5% of the population will push back and not be fooled. That's scary. Now, if we're at that stage, Mondo, and people are willing to give up their liberty for security, because that's how they're going to sell surveillance. That's how they're going to sell a digital currency, this will make your life easy. It's convenient. This will give you security. No one will steal your money, that kind of thing. Whatever the issue is, and we'll be the watchdog for you. People will hand over their liberty for security, which plays right into the hands of the beast system. And if 95% of the population will just go along with it, we're cooked.
Well, see, and this is the wisdom of the founding fathers that said the person that's willing to do that doesn't deserve either liberty or security.
Amen.
The one who's willing to give up liberties for security. I mean, this isn't new.
Right.
They knew that there would be the risk of people wanting that for the sake of security. And yet it's interesting that this phrase is right back up. But again, they know they can get away with it because people don't know history.
That's right.
And so here we are. And to me, it's just, one of the things that I want to segue a little bit because
Sure.
Well, only because, you have this brand new book, Ruling and Reigning in Messiah. And the reason why I wanted to lay a foundation is we're watching the end times. We are. I like Jesus's phrase better, in the sense of the end of the age.
Yes.
Because last
end of the
began
age
when Jesus left. And so we're in the last days for 2,000 years biblically, but we're in the end of the age.
That's right.
And so in thinking about that, I wanted to kind of give a little sampling of just, again, we could talk for hours, as we know, of proofs. But the next thing is you have two things. One is, hey, if you're an unbeliever and you're listening to this, or maybe one of your family members who loves you asks you to listen to this, there's a warning for that person. You better get saved.
Yes,
better
amen.
Put your faith and trust in Jesus. Acknowledge your need for him as a savior, because judgment's coming. I mean, this isn't, Jesus said it very clearly. But the second thing is, as we do this a lot, is the church, okay? And maybe I want to appeal to the person that loves prophecy. Maybe they're eager, but they're still sitting around doing relatively nothing.
Yeah.
And in your book, Eternal Crowns, Ruling and Reigning with the Messiah, you talk about the 5 crowns that we see. This is just, again, part 1 of another book that you're coming out with. But what I'm sure there's no doubt the fact that we're living at the end of the age motivated you to come out with this now. Talk about that.
Yeah, one of the things I see is an unfortunate reaction sometimes to prophecy. And it shouldn't be like this, but I see the mentality of, well, there's nothing I can do about it. What Mondo and Brandon and Billy and Tom are preaching is, I can't control that. I can't stop the world government.
Can't stop the peace.
I can't stop the. So what do I do? So I'm going to put on the white sheet and sit on the rooftop and wait for Jesus to come back, and that's all I can do. And it's like, oh my goodness, you missed the whole point of what prophecy is supposed to do. You're supposed to be motivated to get the Great Commission done. So the 5 crowns, a lot of them are attached to the Great Commission in various ways of doing the Great Commission. And so we talk about occupying. We always use that phrase.
1913. I say it every time I get a message.
Right.
Occupy until I come.
I'll do business till I come. Well, what do you mean? Well, it means do the good works that Ephesians 2:10 talks about. What it says in 2, and everyone needs to look at this. After that salvation passage in 2:8 and 9, it goes into we were created for good works that he has pre-planned for us.
Yes.
There's a destiny as a believer that I have that I'm supposed to live out in these good works. I have the choice of whether I'm going to do it or not. Unfortunately, Mondo, too many people have said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sit on the sidelines and waste my blessed assurance on this instead of actively getting out. Well, what do you mean, Brandon? Well, evangelizing, being salt and light, discipling. Who are you discipling? You know, we're supposed to be influencing people for righteousness. So one of the crowns, I'll give you an example, is the crown of rejoicing. Well, what is the crown of rejoicing? It's given to those who lead people to the Lord and influence the culture and people towards righteousness. So how are we doing on evangelism? Are we sharing the gospel?
Are we speaking up or are we staying quiet?
Are we staying quiet? So salt and light. Okay, in my world, this is what I do. I go to board meetings, and my kids are already grown, but I go to board meetings because I don't like the board and the schools grooming kids.
Yep.
I'm trying to be salt and light. I'm stopping that. I started a Christian school, and we're now putting a political action committee together because we want to have people run for office. I'm not giving up on my environment. I'm trying to be salt and light. And the other thing is influence for righteousness' sake. My job is to create disciples. That's what and that's part of influencing for righteousness. I want people to live a more righteous life. Now, since we're talking prophecy, and like I mentioned this before, the crown of righteousness is tied to prophecy. Because Paul says, I have finished the race, I fought the good fight, and there's a crown laid up for me, a crown of righteousness that those who love his appearing will also get as well. And so what Paul was tying our eschatology to righteous and holy living, blameless living in front of people. And so the crowns are associated to doing the Great Commission, but also how am I doing in my personal life in terms of righteousness? Or am I just living like the world? Yeah, I'm a Christian and I got my fire insurance, but there's no change in me. I've repeated year one of my Christianity 30 years in a row. I've really not grown. So what, I'm still carnal, immature. So the crowns, when you start studying the crowns, it says, hey man, there's a payday someday and we're going to stand before the Lord. And this bema seat that you have in your mind of how it was sold to you, that it's a soccer team's pizza party at the end of the year,
and everybody gets to participate.
And everyone gets a trophy, that kind of thing. If you think that's the bema seat, you're out of your mind. Paul called it the terror of the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, he used that terminology, and he said some people's works will be burned up, and they will have nothing but the smell of smoke on them.
Yep.
And some will obviously be gaining rewards. I'm terrified to think that I'm going to stand before Jesus and he know every motivation, every attitude inside my heart, why I did something, why I didn't do something, sins of omission. Again, our sins are not going to be judged. But please understand, folks, how we live ties into the good works that will be rewarded. And so if I decided to sit this one out, sit on the sidelines, I'll just let Brandon and Mondo fight the battles, and you don't fight them. You're going to be held accountable for that. So I'll give you an example of what's happening. A new phenomenon has developed. Because of God bringing all these dividing issues to the church to reveal the church, my own people that have been in my audience are being bamboozled by social media and Instagram, okay? And these are people that have listened to me for years and years and years. And what's happened? I told Tom, I told Billy this. What's happened is our congregation and our audience has been punting the duties off to you and to me and to other figures, leaders, and says, Mondo will fight our battle. Gary Stearman will fight our battle, and he'll make sure that show gets on, and they'll tackle the errors out there or whatever. But then what happens? Instagram and social media comes and hits them right in the doorstep, and they don't know how to answer. And they're at a loss, and they get discombobulated by a conspiracy theory. And it's like, yeah, the time for punting the knowledge off to the leaders is over. You have to know this in order to contend for the faith. How are you going to answer Candace Owens? How are you going to answer Tucker Carlson when they say Christian Zionists have a mind crazy in their mind, or whatever he said, they're nut jobs or whatever, and that they're the worst people ever is Christian Zionists? Hey guys, that's me and you.
That's
What are you going to say to Tucker? How are you going to defend? Okay, how do you defend biblical Zionism? Do you even know it? Well, Brandon will do it. I may not be here. Mondo may not be here. And so the time for these rewards is to the individual. You have to do this. It's your job, not just the leaders. I'll equip you, but you're going to have to fight. We need everybody in the fight. And I think that's where the rewards. So the positive is this. You have a chance to earn the rewards. One of the guys in one of the parables, I think it's in Matthew 22, comes at the end of the day. And it's not a salvation passage, it's a reward passage. He comes at the end of the day and he gets paid the same as the other workers. And people say, well, how fair is that? It's because the guy that came at 5 o'clock at the end of the day and got the same denarius as the guy at 9 did as much work in that hour as the guy at 9 o'clock did. That's the point. And so he was able to earn an entire day's wage within 1 hour. He's earning wages. That's not a salvation passage. So my point is, if you've been sitting on the sidelines, you can earn it. Just get off the sidelines and get busy, and you can earn as much as someone that's been serving since 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's my admonition to everybody.
Well, and let me say this, because during the millennial period, when we're going to be ruling and reigning, that's what you have, ruling and reigning with Messiah here, is well, wait, Brandon. I mean, there's two things I want to say here that first of all, we're Americans. So it would be God is the God that I've created in my own mind, does everything equally. So he's going to make sure everything gets the same share. You're going to be over, you got 5 cities, you're going to get 5. I mean, everybody got the same amount, right? And, but Brandon, in reality, I don't even care about any of that.
Right.
Because Jesus saved me. I love him. He loves me. And the only thing I care about is as long as I'm just there, as long as I'm there looking out. I don't care if I'm cleaning toilets. I'm just going to be happy to be there. So I don't need any of that.
Yeah.
Again, put me cleaning the toilets. I'll do it with joy in my heart. Will Jesus be accepting that mentality?
He in 1 John chapter 2, I think it's verse 28, he says, some will be ashamed at his coming. That mentality will get you shame, because if you think I'm just happy to be here and I'll be fine cleaning toilets and picking up gum off the ground, you have another thing coming to you, because he will tell you, you wicked and lazy servant.
Yes.
So you knew I was a hard man, huh? And so he's going to give you the biggest tongue lashing and cut you into pieces. And in one parable, he calls you a hypocrite. And you will be assigned a place in the kingdom where the hypocrites are. And people don't take that literally, but that he's talking about the kingdom. So the point is that mentality is not found in the Bible. Paul became OCD about this because he starts saying, look, every runner runs a race, and I do not want to be disqualified for the prize. And what is he talking about? He's not talking about salvation. He's talking about running according to the rules that the race that is laid out. And if I don't compete according to the rules, I'm going to be disqualified. He's not talking about being disqualified for salvation, but being disqualified for rewards. And it starts with that attitude. If Paul and Jesus are saying these rewards are the currency of heaven and you better consider them important, this is what I value. Like, for instance, one reward is to shine brighter than others. Some will shine brighter than others. Well, in our world, that doesn't make any sense. But in that world, it's the currency of heaven. Those who shine the greatest have the greatest position and experience in heaven. Do you want to eat? Do you want to experience heaven from the tree of life and eat it or not? So it comes down to, if that's what Christ's attitude is, I better have that same attitude.
So let's give again for a pastoral perspective, in the sense that does someone need to be a pastor to get a reward? Do they need to go have a million subscribers on YouTube? Do they need to have a 10,000 member church?
Yeah,
we
right.
say
No.
1 Corinthians 4, Matthew 25, well done, thou good and faithful servant. So
Yeah.
let's talk about what, real quickly, is the rewards are available to everybody.
Yeah.
But What does faithfulness look like? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, the parable of the talents is real clear. To some he gave one, to some he gave two, and some he gave five. You may not be a 5-talent person or a 2-talent, but you have one. But you got to be responsible for that 1 talent. And so you're only responsible for what he's called you to do. If he's called me to do different things. But everybody has their own calling and their own mission, and those good works are associated to that mission. You're only responsible for that. And that's what you're to be faithful to. What is your individual call? It's not a pastor. Some of you might be called to be an engineer and to be a minister in that job.
Be a salt light in that entire industry.
Or a teacher or a butcher, baker, candlestick maker. I don't care if you're setting pins at the bowling alley. If that's where he's called you to be, you got to be salt and light there. And so that's what you have to do. Just be faithful to your own calling. You don't have to worry about my calling or Billy Graham's calling or Mondo's. It's your individual calling. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's super important because I think people can be intimidated. But the end of the day is we all know that phrase, you lazy servant.
Wow.
Don't shoot. I mean, Jesus, you died for me. You saved my soul, but I'm going to shoot for the toilet job.
Come on.
To me, it's that false piety that's out
is.
there. And again, we all recognize that none of us deserve anything. Even the gifts, the rewards that he gives us are an act of grace.
Sure, absolutely.
But no doubt, he didn't need to do that. And let me ask you one final question here, because again, I encourage people to get your book, whatprophecywatchers.com. You can see Brandon's new book, Ruling and Reigning of the Messiah. Now, I don't know how you're going to answer this.
Okay.
So what I mean is I have my own views, but I'm curious. So when in Revelation 4, it describes the 24 elders, who I think are the church that day post-rapture.
I agree.
And we've already received our crowns.
Yes.
The crowns are already distributed. And we lay them at the feet of Jesus. Does that imply that they are permanently there? And all of a sudden that now we've received them and then we permanently lay them there and now everybody goes back to being equal?
No. Because the Greek shows you it's repeated action. And so we will constantly be throwing our crowns in front of the feet of Jesus. So the Greek tells me it's not a one and done thing. It is repeated action that every time they say, holy, 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 worthy is the Lamb, we will all take our crowns off. So somehow we go back and pick them up and we put them back on. And so those crowns are called eternal crowns, not temporary crowns. And so because they're eternal, they always stay on our heads as a sign of that designation of ruling and reign with Christ. But we will constantly be throwing our crowns in front of him.
Because it's certainly there, I think. And we know that 1,000 years we're ruling and reigning, 5 cities, 1 city, different thing. And Luke 19, other passages, right? But there's no doubt as well that certainly in standing before the Lord and there seeing the Lamb that was slain, when we look at that, we go, oh, we're going to put our crown.
It's all to you.
It's all
Amen.
to him.
Yeah, that's right.
All day long. But we know that. But and I'll just say this, the last phraseology that we see of Jesus in the entire Bible,
That's
Revelation
right.
22, he says, behold, I'm coming and my rewards are with me to reward each one according to their deeds. So here, the last thing he says is, and again, I just have many things to ask, but is it okay for people to do good works with the intention of getting a reward?
Absolutely, because Jesus affirms that's the right motivation. You think about this. If I was on a sports team, do I want to lose? I want to win the Super Bowl. And so the incentive to do well is the reward in and of itself of I gutted it out. I want to look in the mirror, Mondo, and even just looking in my mirror and say I have integrity with myself, that I gave everything I could. I didn't leave any part of me out on the field where I didn't give an effort or I was lazy. I mean, doesn't people want that integrity? Well, that's what Christ says. That's a good motivation. It's a good motivation to want things. We talk about our kids. We reward our own kids. We say, hey, man, if you get good grades, you're going to be able to do this or going to be able to drive a car or whatever, or I'll pay for college or I'll pay half of it or whatever if you get good grades. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how we normally live in life. And that's the way our job. If we do good in our job, hey, you can get a bonus. You can get a promotion. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
That's godly ambition. There's unhealthy ambition, but Jesus is not talking about worldly ambition. He's talking about treasure things in heaven. You should want that thing. So, yeah.
And I think, too, that if my son or daughter, which I don't have any sons, but my daughters came and said, well, why'd you do your chores? Dad, the only reason I did my chores is to get is my allowance. Okay,
That's fine.
I accept that.
Totally.
You did what you were supposed to do. Here's your thing. And so I encourage people. I've challenged people in the past because I've had some go, Mon, I just don't believe it's right to do things only for rewards. And I said, well, then you don't know the Bible, because I encourage you to go out and just anybody can do this. Get your concordance out. Go online and give me all the places where reward or rewards appears in the New Testament, and you will see that over and over. Jesus says, store up treasures in heaven.
That's right.
Store up treasures in heaven. It's a constant carrot out there.
It is totally. And if you again read the book, and then I'm gonna have come up with the second volume coming up. I'm gonna talk about the rewards in the book of Revelation. How do you want to experience heaven? And this is a more mature kind of look at, do you want to not experience all that God has to offer in heaven? With the rewards, if you get the full Monty, you'll get the full experience. And people have to start digging down. Okay, what does it mean to be a pillar in God's kingdom? What does it mean to eat from the tree of life? Again, what does that mean? Well, they're all at different aspects. What does it mean that you'll have a welcome party at the entrance of the gates because you used unrighteous mammon to win friends? What does that mean? What does it mean that you will see his face and his servants will serve him? What do you mean you will see his face? We will all be in his presence, I thought. Yeah, but there's some that are going to be closer than others.
You know what? That is the fact of the matter. I heard some people, I remember years ago, where I was making, I was investing in, like, again, elders and deacons and discipling and stuff. And there was a criticism like, oh, you guys are just having clicks. And I go, didn't Jesus have Peter, James?
He had the inner circles.
Yeah.
Totally.
James and John. And then he had the 4 with Andrew. And then he had those inner circles because he was investing in certain things. So anyways, all that to say is, look, it's open to everybody. Salvation is a gift. We're all going to be in heaven. That is on the death of Jesus. He paid for it. But your location and your proximity to the Lord and your service and responsibilities, and especially in the millennial period, is free for how much people want to work. So, Brandon,
yeah,
thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
It's been good. What I want to say to everybody, again, you can get Brandon's book, Ruling and Reigning. Again, it'll challenge you in a great way. And I promise you that when you get equipped with this truth, when you're there on that day, you're never going to have a regret of, oh, I wish I would have done less for the Lord. Never going to happen. So thanks for listening this week. We'll catch you next time.